Hey guys, and welcome to the biggest winners and losers of F1's first triple header of the season. We've had 3 races, not much battles for the win, but we started off with one person leading the championship and we've ended up with another person leading the championship. And I promise you right now, we're definitely going to get to that. In fact, let's start with it. My first winner of the first triple header of the season. And of course, it's the first Australian to lead the F1 championship since Mark Webber in 2010. It's the new Iceman. It's Oscar Piastri. Oscar Piastri obviously scored the most points of any driver over the 3 races. He got 2 wins, a 3rd place and a pole position. He entered 4th in the standings, 10 points behind Lando Norris, and he's exited the triple header 10 points clear of Lando Norris at the top of the standings. I think Oscar Piastri, for anybody that wasn't very impressed with him before, I don't know how you weren't, kind of showed who he was as a driver, who he was as one of the future generational drivers, as one of these people that could be a world champion over the course of these 3 races. While his teammates had his issues, which we will get onto later, hint, hint, he might be in the losers. Oscar Piastri has just been cool, calm, and collected. He's tied Lando Norris for career victories. Lando Norris has been in F1 since 2019. Oscar Piastri is in his 3rd season. And that means now they're both tied for the 5th most career wins on the grid. Funny enough, with 5. They're only behind Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton, of course, Max Verstappen, and Fernando Alonso. And this season, he's the only driver to win more than 1 race, and he's won 3. If you look over the course of these 3 races, Japan was a bit of a weird one. Japan, I felt like you just couldn't really race. Dirty air was too difficult. There was almost no tire deck, so you didn't have people going for alternate strategies because there was no need to. And he closed up on his teammate, but never really got the opportunity to have a go at Max Verstappen. Something that I do feel like he should have had a chance to go at. In Bahrain, he was class, qualifying on pole, and didn't make any mistakes in his way to a victory. And then he put himself right on the cusp of leading the championship, just behind his teammate and just behind Max Verstappen. And then what does he do? He goes to Jeddah, wins, and puts himself atop the championship. Like Oscar Piastri is showing why people like me always thought that he was the future of McLaren, why he was the person that they should build their future around. And he's proving that they're going to have a problem because, like, I don't know, if these two, I can see a future in which Lando Norris doesn't want to be behind Oscar Piastri. I said this last week when reviewing Bahrain. I can see a future where Lando Norris doesn't want to be just sat behind Oscar Piastri, but that might be a harsh reality that he has to get used to because Oscar Piastri just is the driver with the higher potential. Through 3 seasons, I am more impressed with Oscar Piastri than I am with Lando Norris through the, 2006 seasons. We've seen him. He's in his 7th season right now. So to me, he was the biggest winner of the triple header. 2 out of 3 race wins. He's won 66.666% of the races, and has been on the podium on every single one of them, just behind his teammate in one of them in 3rd place when Lando. The second person I'm going to go on to is a person in red, and that is him coming off what is, in my opinion, one of the drives of the season so far, and that is Charles Leclerc. Now you must be wondering, how the hell can I put Charles Leclerc there? After this, well, my goal is after this, you will agree with me, to be honest. That is actually my goal. Through the 3 races of the triple header, Charles Leclerc is the only non-McLaren driver to finish in the top 4 of every single one of those races. In Jeddah, as I said, it was one of the drives of the season. He pulled that Ferrari to places where it shouldn't have been. Extending his stint on the mediums, going 29 laps on the mediums. Once in clear air, Lando Norris even couldn't catch up to him, even though Lando Norris had hards and Charles Leclerc had been running his mediums for so long in the dirty wake of George Russell. Then comes out, is quickest person on the grid, catches up with George Russell, overtakes George Russell, manages to keep the gap to Lando Norris, who's on the faster, newer medium tire, and secures the podium, Ferrari's first podium of the season. This is how quick he has been compared to his teammate, Lewis Hamilton, who is having his own struggles this season so far. In the qualifying throughout the triple header, Charles Leclerc outqualified Lewis Hamilton by 0.3 tenths of a second in Japan. In Bahrain, it was nearly 6 tenths. He was quicker than Lewis Hamilton. And then in Jeddah, it was 5 tenths. He was half a second quicker than Lewis Hamilton. That averages out to Charles Leclerc being quicker than Lewis Hamilton over the triple header by just under half a second every single qualifying session. He carried Ferrari during the triple header after what was a terrible first 2 races. One of Ferrari's lowest points tallies through 2 races in absolute eons. But he carried them through that triple header, helping them secure the second most points of any team during that time. The only team to secure more, of course, was McLaren. And they have closed right back up with Red Bull and Mercedes in the Constructors' Championship. Leclerc showing that this season, if he is given a car that is good enough to battle with the McLarens, he could beat them in a championship battle. Like, as if people needed that. I mean, I've known that for years, that he could battle anybody on the grid for a championship, including Max Verstappen. But his performances as well have just been class. You know, in Bahrain, I really do feel like he got out of that car what not many on the grid could. He got exactly what needed with that 4th place finish, with the 3rd place in qualifying, started in 2nd. He extracted the maximum out of that car. In Japan, it was a lonely race for him. He came home in 4th again there. And then obviously in Jeddah, it was just one of his best drives in his career, in my opinion. Just when you add the context of that car, is not meant to be on the podium. It's nowhere near as quick as the McLaren. And it seems so far this season that it hasn't been quicker than the Mercedes. But with the tyre offset, Leclerc being able to extract the perfect strategy, he managed to pull it off. And I'm going to look a bit further down the grid for my final winner. It is the RB driver of Isaac Haja. He finished in the points in 2 of the 3 races. He could have got more in Jeddah, but Williams had an absolutely brilliant strategy of the DRS train to make it harder for him to overtake Albon, and then Carlos Sainz on his faster, newer tyres. You add in the Japan qualifying, overcoming his seatbelt issues, risking literally not having children in order to get into Q3 and being able to do that. Isaac Haja has shown himself to be more than quick and good enough to have a very long career in Formula One. I think he's going to be absolutely brilliant. And if he is eventually given the opportunity to drive at Red Bull, I do think he will flourish. We do need to acknowledge that they do have, say, Arvin Lindblad, who's just become the youngest driver to win an F2 race in controversial fashion, but he still did. Arvin Lindblad is an absolutely fantastic driver. So he's going to have battles for that red. So far in Formula One, he can say that he's proven to be quick enough in Formula One, something that Lindblad hasn't. And especially the fact that Hajar is shining. He's really, really shining in a crop of rookies that looks very strong. Behrman looks quality. Antonelli looks brilliant. And Hajar is not being left behind. He looks absolutely fantastic. And for me, across those 3 races, getting his first points finish in Japan, getting another points finish in Jeddah, a points finish that, like I said, could have been more if Williams didn't extract a brilliant strategy to keep both their drivers in the points, in decent points in 8th and 9th. He would have got more. He would have potentially finished 8th. I think he genuinely could have caught up with Sainz and overtaken him after overtaking Albon. So yeah, Hajar someone that I really cannot wait to see. And I hope he doesn't have a bit of the Yuki Tsunoda syndrome and get stuck in RB for too long, because he's a driver that if he keeps going the way he does go, I want to see him in a good car as soon as possible. And whilst the RB is a decent car, there's a kind of a cap in performance, because I just feel like, okay, right now it's an easier car to drive than the Red Bull, but on pure performance, is it quicker than the Red Bull? No. Just a car's only as good as how quick you can drive it, which is why the Red Bull looks slower in the hands of Yuki Tsunoda and the hands of Liam Lawson. Because what's a quick car that you can't drive? You know what I mean? What's a quick car that you can't drive quick? So if I could see him in a car that he could drive quick like the Red Bull, if he was able to, I'd love to be able to see that one day. But now it's time for negativity. Now it's time for a lot of negativity, because we're going on to the losers. And obviously there's only one place to start this. It is Lando Norris. He came into the triple header with a lead in the championship, and it just seems to have gone downhill since, despite him getting podiums in 2 of the 3 races. Those podiums, I feel, seem to dress over a lot of the problems that he had over the course of this triple header. You go to Japan, I can't really fault him in Japan. It was a bit of a weird race. You couldn't really close up on anybody. It was very hard to overtake. There just wasn't the pace with it. And they were very much clear of Leclerc in fourth, but they couldn't get to Verstappen, just had enough. I do think there were some wrong strategy choices in Japan, but I can't put that on Lando Norris. That's more of a team thing. But for me, it's mainly his chatter around whether he has the fastest car or not. I feel like he's spending so much time being played by the Max Verstappens, the George Russells on whether or not his car is quick. And it seems to be distracting him and affecting his performance on track. And the worst part about it is every single time he says that his car is not the quickest. For example, in Jeddah, he said it was clear that his car was not the quickest. Oscar Piastri gets asked almost instantly and instantly rejects the thing that Lando is saying. He says, nah, I'm pretty sure we were quicker. In Jeddah, he said that. All the other times he said that. When he won at Bahrain, he said, it would be dishonest to say that we do not have the quickest car right now. But that isn't what you should be focusing on, Lando. You need to get out of those conversations and focus on your performance because, okay, so after Japan, we put Japan to the side. The next race, Bahrain, Lando Norris has a very poor qualifying and has to recover to the podium, which he did. But he did that getting a penalty that I think should have probably been stricter because the benefits of Lando Norris from the start, well, positioning his car wrong at the start, were greater than the penalty that he got. The 5 seconds didn't offset the fact that he was able to jump multiple positions at the start of the race and then take a 5-second penalty and just have to overtake the two Ferraris. He already had that lead. If he had to overtake the two Ferraris on track instead of at the start, who knows? He could have not got that podium. Just saying. And then you go to Jeddah. And then in Jeddah, Lando Norris was fastest in practice, fastest in Q2. And then in Q3, bear in mind the context of him knowing that he's gone into that race weekend potentially losing the lead of the championship. And then when it comes to his first push lap in Q3, he goes for a risk that is just not worth it. Lando Norris had 2 sets of new soft tires in Q3. He didn't need to go for a risk that could potentially lead to him hitting the wall. A risk that did lead to him hitting the wall. And then he hits the wall and has to start 10th. And misses out the opportunity on starting first when we know just how important it is this season to start him first. Oscar Piastri was the first driver to win not starting on pole this season. So Lando Norris giving up that opportunity to potentially get pole position for a couple of extra milliseconds and a risk that he didn't need to take just shows a bit of immaturity in his decision making. Something that right now you're just not seeing from Piastri. And with Oscar Piastri in the form that he's currently in and Lando Norris spiraling the way he is, he looks defeated every single time we see him on camera. I'm not sure if Lando Norris can keep up the performance that he will need to in order to keep up with Piastri over the course of the entire season. I'm not saying Lando Norris is not going to win a single race again. He's too good a driver to not win a single race in that car again. But over the course of the season, the consistency that he's going to need to be able to put forth in order to keep up with Max Verstappen and Oscar Piastri and say if Ferrari get a good car, Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris, I do not feel has the ability to do that because it seems that now he has the weight of expectation, he's not able to deliver. Funnily enough, my second loser is also the teammates of one of the winners from my list, and that's 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton. After the highs of the Chinese sprint race, it's been nothing but a downhill slope for Lewis since that. He's finished 7th, 5th, and 7th, and has been outqualified by his teammate by nearly half a second, as I said earlier. Whilst Leclerc admits that the car is far from easy to drive, he seems able to extract performance from that Ferrari that Lewis Hamilton just isn't able to. And 5 races in, we have to stop talking about Lewis adjusting. Lewis has had the entirety of the preseason and 5 Grand Prix now. And I heard Martin Brundle make the perfect point when asked about Lewis adjusting. He said, and I quote, and this is after Jeddah, Ollie Behrman had 1 day to adjust and managed the exact same result as Lewis Hamilton. Now you can add the fact that Lewis Hamilton has been racing at one team for 12 years and then has to jump into another team. But Ollie Behrman hadn't raced in Formula One before, in a Formula One Grand Prix. I don't know which one's harder to adjust to, but they both seem difficult. And if we're having the same expectations of Ollie Behrman in his first Formula One race in a Ferrari versus Lewis Hamilton in after how many years of experience in Formula One and 7 world championships, I don't know. I just seem like that excuse is getting a bit worn out. And bear in mind, but in both races, Leclerc finished third. Leclerc finished third last season's Jeddah Grand Prix, and Leclerc finished third in this season's Jeddah Grand Prix. So when you talk about performance, there's that. Also, if you want to talk about just how bad Hamilton's performance has been in a race, bear in mind, Hamilton had his qualifying struggles last season against George Russell. We all seen that. But Hamilton's yet to finish ahead of Leclerc in a full-length Grand Prix. And it's not been close. In Japan, he was 13 seconds behind Leclerc. In Bahrain, a race that had a safety car in the middle of it, towards the kind of back end middle of it, he finished 8 seconds behind Leclerc. And in Jeddah, he finished 31 seconds behind Charles Leclerc. 31 seconds. It's not good enough. And at times, Leclerc was lapping nearly a second a lap quicker than Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton's performances from Mercedes, many people kind of attributed them towards him being checked out because he was moving to Ferrari. But from the start of this season, it seems like those results and those performances that we were seeing at Mercedes weren't because he was checked out, but that is more just a reality of what we're going to get from Lewis Hamilton in this stage of his career. He is 40, bear in mind. And I feel like it's a bit ignorant to ignore the fact that age is going to catch up on him. And it's going to have an effect on his performances. And I think that is what we're seeing right now. And for my final loser, I'm going to go significantly further down the grid, and that is Lance Stroll. At some point, this really does have to end, and I'm saying this in the most polite way possible. In Japan, a race that we've talked about being completely fat out, no tire wear, everybody was pushing to the max. Only one driver finished one lap behind the leaders, and that was Lance Stroll. I refuse to believe that Lance Stroll driving for Aston Martin is good for team morale. I don't believe it. I refuse to believe that guy being in your car as a mechanic, as an engineer, you're working on producing the best car possible, and you know Lance Stroll is going to be the person to drive it. I refuse to believe you're able to be as motivated as possible as you could be if you had a driver that you can trust will extract every single thing out of that car possible. I'm not saying Aston Martin have a good car. I'm just saying that if they did, I can guarantee Lance Stroll would not be performing in it. In Jeddah, Lance Stroll broke a very unwanted record. It's the most Q1 exits in Formula One history with 75. For context, Lance Stroll's teammates in that time have 41 Q1 exits. And this is the shocker. So I said 75 Q1 exits for Lance Stroll. In that exact same time frame, Lance Stroll's teammates have 74 Q3 appearances. So Lance Stroll's teammates have nearly as many Q3 appearances as Lance Stroll has Q1 exits. Do you know how insane that is? For context, Lance Stroll has 40 Q3 appearances in that time as well. Alonso remains pointless, but he has out-raced Lance Stroll in every single race in the triple header. So Stroll is also the only driver to have been lapped multiple times in the triple header. Once again, this season, he's proving that he's not good enough for Formula One. And while Stroll did show some flashes early on in his career, a couple of the youngest ever records, or in the mix of the top 2 youngest ever records with Max Verstappen for a few things, I struggle to believe that right now he has earned a place in Formula One and has it for one reason, a reason that we all know that I'm not going to say. And I strongly believe that Aston Martin cannot call themselves a serious team with hopes of recruiting Max Verstappen when they still employ him as their driver. How on earth is Max Verstappen going to talk about joining you seriously when he looks across the other side of the garage and sees there? Tell me. Because I don't see a way that Max Verstappen, this guy that's obsessed with winning, obsessed with extracting the most possible out of everything he possibly can go to work with Lando as his teammate. But we're back again next week because it is the Miami Grand Prix. We'll have some content coming out across the channels from you. We'll have Nicholas's news videos. We'll have me coming in here, hopefully with Nicholas, and talking more about the Miami Grand Prix. Remember, Lando Norris secured his maiden F1 victory here. So if there was any place he wanted to bounce back and maybe get back on top of the championship, it would be Miami. But we'll be here to react to it and to preview all of it for you guys. So if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe and hit the bell next to the subscribe button so you get notified every time we drop a video. It's been a pleasure. I've been Luther. See you next time.